What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Thee CrazyFaceUno Podcast. I'm your host, Shane McNeely. Just a reminder, CrazyFaceUno is inspiring others to do good and make a difference in our local and global community. And I'm very excited and very happy to introduce you to my friend and one of the most passionate men I know, Mr. Bryan Funk. Welcome, Bryan.
Hey Shane, great to be reconnected with you. It's
Absolutely.
been a few years since we've had a good old heart to heart, and we're overdue.
I know, it has been. It's been a little while. It's been good. I mean, it's the common theme with my guests these days is reconnecting after a few years of silence or without connection. So it's good. I like it.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's like living proof that also, as I can imagine and as I'm sure we're about to experience, I'm sure all of your conversations pick up right where they left off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Love it.
It's kind of the people that we know. A lot of them as well because I bring up the name Invisible Children a lot, but it's just kind of the nature of that group of people. And I mean, I think it's kind of my personality as well, but yeah, just pick up where we left off and run. Real quick, I do want to see if I can completely piss off everybody that might be listening. How about those New England Patriots?
I hate to tell you, you know this. I'm born and raised in New England, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I spent my entire life surrounded by bloodthirsty Patriots fans, and I couldn't get on board.
Well, I had to just throw it out there. Just first opportunity.
Did they win?
First opportunity I had.
They won.
Yeah. Okay.
We know they. Okay.
If you're listening, comment on Instagram, on whatever social media, your team and your tastes for New England Patriots and their most recent pickup, especially. But we'll move on from that. I just wanted to throw it out there and see how riled up I could get everybody. I think it's working.
Amazing.
Dude, I was looking, this is my classic thing. I usually get on Facebook and kind of read the about, the person that I'm going to have on there just to kind of brush up, see if there's anything I had learned. I didn't realize you were in English writing or you studied English writing.
I was.
At Plymouth State, is that right? University?
Yeah, and I have to admit to you, I think I was an English writing major. This is kind of bad, but I went to college having no clue what I wanted to do with my life.
Man, who does?
Clueless, lost, still don't know in a way.
Yeah, right.
And I honestly was more passionate about what I was doing outside the classroom. I was super engaged and involved in my community and student organizations and being involved on campus, and it's where I really kind of fostered my love for invisible children. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm here to get a degree and we're paying $40,000 a year for it. So what am I going to do? Yeah. And to be honest, I chose my major because writing always came naturally. I always loved reading, but to be honest, I felt a great connection with the faculty in the department. Yeah. That's awesome. So like most decisions I've made in my life, it's been about people. So yeah, looking back, that's why I made that decision. But yes, I am an English writing major, and I was also horrified when you said you went into the about section of my Facebook because remember, like once upon a time when there were little notebooks that you could write, and I think they're still buried there in Facebook. Ooh. And there's definitely some high school.
I didn't dig that deep.
Poetry or something in there, and I was afraid of what you found.
I didn't dig that deep. So I love that about you, that you're people driven. I think that I find myself very much in that same vein. I think that most like jobs and things you do, it's not about the work so much. It's about the people you surround yourself with and that camaraderie, at least for me. And I have a feeling you probably agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's interesting because, as the older, it's fun to look back, and you can see how all the dots connect. And
Yeah.
I had so many moments in my life where everyone around me thought I was absolutely crazy for the steps I was taking and the decisions I was making. But like somewhere deep down inside me, I just knew I was on my path.
That's awesome.
And, man, when I was 17, my friends and I, we befriended two Holocaust survivors, one of them being Elie Wiesel.
Wow.
And they inspired us to do something about what's happening in the world today in terms of human rights and mass atrocities and genocide. And
yeah.
And it's also the same time period where I first was introduced to the nonprofit Invisible Children.
Right.
And so, like, Invisible Children intersected my life while I was building a relationship with people that had lived through a period of time in our history that I was both horrified by and fascinated with.
Yeah.
And it's like that human connection sparked the passion that said, okay, like, I don't know what to do, but I have to do something.
Yeah.
So let's take an action step. And so, my friends and I, with literally no clue what we were doing, no experience, 17 years old, I literally, the most accomplished thing I'd maybe done in my life at that point was that I was a football player and an actor. And, and I was crushing stereotypes.
That's awesome.
And I totally lost what I was going to say, and I'm just going to own it because it's 9 a.m. and I'm halfway through my first cup of coffee.
You were 17 years old.
Yeah.
Most accomplished thing. You guys were doing some awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And yeah, we just basically put our skills and talents on the table and said, let's do a big event in our community. You know how to do X, Y, and Z. I don't. I can do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Let's put a fundraiser together. And never having raised a penny in my life, we raised $20,000 in less than half a day.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it was like this moment where it was like, oh, if you have a dream, you're capable of it. And basically, I went to college right off of that experience, and I said, I felt a real connection to Invisible Children. So, I hosted the organization on campus. They brought screenings. I built relationships with all of the folks from the organization that we encountered. And then you can trace those steps into, I went to Uganda the summer before my senior year of college. And I was actually there the same summer as the bombings that took place in Kampala.
Right.
And, as some of you might know, and many of you probably do, one of our, beloved friends and members of our community, Nate Henn, was the one American that lost his life in that attack.
Yeah.
And when I graduated college, I mean, I was kind of back at square one. It was like, okay, I've had these experiences, but I don't know what to do with them. Mm-hmm. And I have no clarity on where to go, but I don't know, like being pulled by relationship and people and the way people leave an impression on your heart. I just knew I had to apply to work for Invisible Children. And part of it was my experience just engaged with the organization. Part of it was, the proximity to just being in country when that event happened. And I had known Nate and, not super well, but had known him nonetheless. And it was really real. And it was like, well, this guy, left behind a legacy, and you know what, I'll pick up the torch and I'll play my small part. And I don't know what ripple it's going to make. And I don't know where it's going to lead me. I just know it's the right thing I got to do.
Yeah.
And,
that's awesome.
And that's when our paths collided.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we start. Did we start at the same time?
You were there before me.
Okay. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
there fall 2010. So I was actually in Haiti. I spent a couple months in Haiti that summer, and so I got all that news while I was there about Nate and the bombing and all of that. I remember it so like clearly, like where I was at, you know, like it just mind-boggling, and knowing that I was going to be headed to San Diego to work for Invisible Children after this, and just the unknowns as to kind of like what's going to happen here, you know, like what's going on. Yeah, so we crossed paths. We were both roadies, which is just traveling. We traveled the country, speaking and showing a documentary to different high schools, colleges, places of worship. And you actually went on to be one of the regional managers, which was in charge of the roadies and kind of leading them and managing their experience and our organization's impact in a lot of ways, which is awesome. What?
Yeah, it was. Oh, keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it was this wild experience where it was just like I literally planned to go and do one internship.
Yeah, same.
And, you know, it turned out to become this experience that became the foundation not only to my personal growth into adulthood, but also the foundation to my career. And we'll circle back to this, but there are crazy synergies and serendipities that are taking place in my life now because of the choices that I've made at Invisible Children 8 years ago.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? I mean, like you said it in the beginning, like hindsight's always 20/20, and you see these like connections. And yet here's where I find myself, and I guess it's like a constant reminder, but when you look back, there's like so many, at least in my life, and it sounds like the same for you, there's so many of these like paths. There's so many of these decisions that are made even before, you know, like parents, you know, people in our lives making the decisions that they made to lead us to where we are today. And it's just amazing. And you start seeing these and it's like, well, I see these things in my own life. I wouldn't be here in Florida if there was like multitude of things that didn't take place and decisions that were made. Like one decision of like hundreds, you know, I mean, probably thousands that didn't get made, and I wouldn't be in Florida right now where I'm at, and I wouldn't be talking to you. And it's just crazy to me. And I think it's beautiful. I think that there is purpose to this world. It's just following and knowing and staying present and knowing that you've got to make the best decision that you can. And ultimately it's going to lead to who you are in the future. And being okay with that in some ways.
Yes, you just touched on something that, and I'm, you know, I had a few things in the back of my mind of, I totally coming into this conversation, just open, fluid, no expectation of where we're going to go. But I had a few things in the back of my mind that I wanted to bring up if I could. And
yeah.
Man, you just spoke to one of them. And, you know, and I'd love to share this with people because this has been such an eye-opener for me and has become like really a guiding light and principle in my life and how I see the world and how I make decisions. And I'm so grateful and blessed for the work that I do. I work for a company called Plenty.
Right.
And we do retreats, workshops, and coaching for individuals and organizations looking to create an impact in the world.
Yeah.
And you know, we're at the intersection of helping individuals find their authentic blueprint and be more fulfilled in their life and their work. But we're also working with, we're helping nonprofits grow, and we're also working with, major corporations that are looking to develop their social purpose and how they want to show up in the world. And on the corporate side, people are just, there's totally an evolution in business where it's not about the bottom line anymore. And the consumer cares a lot more than the bottom line. And it's being driven in a large part by the millennial generation. And
I agree.
And I bring this up just for context, but all of the work that we do are through these experiential retreats. And we hold this belief that if any of us are ever looking for an answer, we all hold the wisdom within. We all have the answers. And we run a leadership retreat called Lantern. Okay. And at Lantern, we have a few key principles, and one of them is called the 4 lights. And the 4 lights are essentially, it speaks to exactly what you were saying. One of the lights is, you only need to see what's right in front of you. If you're in the dark and you don't know where to go, you hold a lantern above your head. The circle that's illuminated around you is actually all you need to see to make the next choice, the next decision. Because if you're not present, and if you're not aware, and if your sight is 100 yards ahead of you into the dark with where you can't see, you'll miss where your feet are going. Right? It's like a really simple but beautiful metaphor. And it's taught me a lot about being present in my life.
Yeah.
It's taught me a lot about like slowing down and seeing what's in front of me. And we don't have to have all the answers. Another one of the 4 lights is that there's a larger light guiding us, and it doesn't matter what you call it, but we can all agree that we live in this cosmos where we are all made up of the same material. And, whatever you call the forces that guide us, we're all connected.
Yeah.
And
we are. Yep, for sure.
So it's just, I just kind of wanted to share some of those nuggets where, and you just spoke to that really beautifully. And, I just think, there's a wonderful book that I love that's called The Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan Watts.
Okay. I got to write that down.
And yeah, Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan Watts. And the whole book is about how generations of people have been living and dying and they never live their life. And they never live their life because they live in fear of the future and anxiety of the past.
Yeah.
And when you operate in those states of being, your life flashes by and you miss every present moment that comes your way. And so the whole book is about finding presence and finding a way to appreciate what's in front of you. And
we hear this so often with, just older generations, like the grandparent types of, or these interviews or these conversations that people always ask, like people that are on their deathbed, like what would you tell the younger generation? And it comes up so often, like enjoy life and, stay present. Don't worry about making the money, or don't worry about all these other things. Like follow your passions and the money will come. And, these different concepts, these different ideas. And I think that they're really important to hear, and to keep in the forefront of your mind. And I think that staying present is one of the best ways to do that. And if you're listening, don't be confused with the idea of like, it doesn't mean you don't plan for the future. It doesn't mean that you don't, use the lessons that you've learned from your past. It's just that those aren't the things that you idolize and you put all of your time and energy into. You've got to use your surroundings and use your wisdom and your knowledge of those past and the future goals or future things that you want to accomplish to harness the present. And I think that that's an important thing to remember as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of the analogies I like to use is around presence is like if you sit on the couch and watch Netflix for 8 hours a day, that day is over in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But if I put my phone down and I go on a hike, a 2-hour hike feels like the 8 hours of Netflix.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I've done something in 2 hours that felt like 8. And in this really magical way, I've bought myself more time in my day. I've like extended my life in a way.
Yeah.
Right? So like the trick and challenge of life is like when you're present and you're with the experience or the person sitting in front of you, time slows down.
Yeah.
Like maybe, like time is relative. And like I love the days. Like I love the days where I feel like my morning, like by the time I get to the afternoon, the morning feels like it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And like those are the best days on planet Earth because you're putting more time and experience into the same window of time that everybody else has.
Yeah.
And you're just that much more awake.
Absolutely. And for me, it's being disciplined. You know, I'm working full time with CrazyFaceUno and trying to build this foundation. And, you know, I get the choice to wake up when I want to. And, I've found that having that discipline, regardless of when I went to bed the night before, of having that discipline of like, hey, I'm going to get up at this time, you know, I'm going to get up at 8:00 and in the morning, and I'm going to get going. I'm going to start my day right. I'm going to start my day with a solid foundation and not just sleep the morning away, which is such an easy thing to do. And it's not just like, you know, your desires, you know, like the alarm goes off or my wife gets up and goes to work, and I don't want to get up when she gets up, you know, or I don't want to get up at that time necessarily. But it's just that discipline of like, all right, it's time to get up. It's time to get going. And then what I feel like it provides for me is I feel sharp. I feel good. I feel like I can get more accomplished when I get up and get going. And then as well as like, it allows me to have that time with my wife when she gets home from work, and I don't have to like work into the evening or do things into the evening. And it gives me that freedom and that balance and of life and work. And I just think that, you know, those things are important, just like you mentioned as well.
I love that. I really, really love that.
Bryan, so you left college, went to Invisible Children, planned to do one stint like myself, one little internship, one little bit, ended up sticking around for a little while. Did you know that, so I was the same thing. Like I actually had lined up, my next gig was going to be going back to Haiti and to helping with a project there.
I didn't know that.
And that all fell through after my first tour with Invisible Children. And then I ended up just re-upping and staying on and doing it again. Yeah. Crazy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry you didn't get to go to Haiti.
Yeah, it's actually a real bummer. I was looking at those emails like 6 months ago. I was like looking through my old emails of I don't know why, but it's a blast from the past. But I saw that and I was like, man, that is crazy to think about how different my life would be. Again, those decisions or those things that happen, you know, that like lead you to where you are. So, I mean, yeah, go on.
I'm going to plant another seed. That's a whole other thing. This was not pre-planned.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing that is really present in my life right now. And, oh boy, we are not in control. And I've been a control freak.
Likewise.
I am the master of my own destiny, and the universe, in the last couple of years, and really in my 20s, I mean, I've gotten a swift kick in the ass. I've gotten my ass kicked.
Yeah.
And it was just this lesson in like, holy crap, I'm not in control. And you know, we'll get to it in a minute, but there are things that I've been through in the last 2 years that are like, I could have done everything perfectly.
Yeah. Yep.
And things still will happen out of your control that completely derail you. And it's just like, wow, you know, I just think like control is this illusion. You know, there are things in your life that you can control, but I'm talking on like a much more like spiritual level.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's just like there is so much happening around us, and there are things, you know, you think you're in control, and I think it's something that we teach ourselves to feel safe. But
I think it is a safety mechanism for sure.
How freeing is it to realize that, hey, maybe I'm not in control as much as I was.
Yeah.
And I think that leans into purpose, because like, man, like you weren't supposed to go to Haiti.
No.
You know? And I think that's part of your purpose.
Yeah, I
Your
mean,
purpose, your purpose was to be at Invisible Children longer, and
yeah.
the path that it led you, and and
Those relationships
part
I was
of
able to build, and yeah, for sure, I 100% agree. It's crazy to think about. It really is, like, and it's freeing, like you said. I think that when you let go of that control a little bit, that's something I've been working on in recent months, to be honest. Is I'm a control freak as well. And it's funny how that manifests. You control different things. You control the information that you tell people. You control the things that you want to keep to yourself because you're afraid of what someone else might think. That fear, controlling your environment, controlling, I don't know, just so many different things. And I guess the one that's been really I've been challenged with the most is controlling, letting go of the control of what comes out of my mouth in some ways, and not in like a derogatory way, you know what I mean? Like, but I feel like I've been bashful of, man, what's my family going to think if I tell them that, this, or what's my, like, what are people going to think? What if people don't like me? What if people don't, all these insecurities, and being like, you know what, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, like, I have to be my truest self in a healthy way, and not in like controlling my environment way. Does that make sense?
Preach. Yeah. 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 And that's kind of the other component of like a lot of things that we're talking about is just, what is your most authentic self?
Yeah.
And I think the other journey we're all on together in finding our purpose is finding out who we are and who we want to be and the person we want to grow into, and who are we, like, at our core DNA blueprint, like, who are we in our most authentic form, and that's how we each show up in the world. And
right.
I just imagine how you show up, imagine how differently you show up when you show up as your true self versus molding yourself into something you think someone wants you to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you take the latter, that's a redirect off your path.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like, and it's really, like, it's kind of become a big part of my philosophy about how we do make a difference in the world, and how we do leave an impact is, like, you and I started our careers working for a global movement, and and we were a small piece of something that made a big difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the older I get, the more I'm kind of realizing that, the real way that we can, we're not always going to be a part of a global movement. So what do you do every day? And, we want to leave a legacy, and we want to know that our lives have purpose and meaning. And at the end of the day, it's like, my life and legacy and impact is going to flourish the most as long as I am whole and fulfilled and true to myself. And if I don't take care of those three things, if I don't take care of my house in that way, if I don't take care of my well-being and my wholeness and my heart, and if I'm not gentle with myself, and if I don't care for myself, I can't do that for other people, and I can't do that for the world or my community.
Yep. 100%. I'm right there with you. First, I want to just address the noise here. Apparently, the mowing is happening today, so that's a thing that's happening in the background. I apologize for that sound. Nothing I can do about it, and I'm gonna let that one go. But I'm gonna call a spade a spade. So,
hey man, you're not in control.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that while I was like fixating on this lawnmower outside. I'm like, you son of a gun! Dang it. However, I'm out of control of that one, so we're just gonna move on. What did you do after Invisible Children?
Yeah, after Invisible Children, I went on to go work for To Write Love on Our Arms.
Okay.
Which is a nonprofit focused on giving help and hope and resources to people struggling with depression, addiction, and thoughts of suicide.
Yeah.
and wonderful, wonderful organization. Also, today is Tuesday, September 10th, and it's World Suicide Prevention Day. So just want to highlight that, there's a lot of really great organizations in the world that are doing really critical work to help people, and mental health is something that impacts all of us. And, I just think it's a nice flag to say, if you know someone that's struggling, even if you have a question, reach out, and there's bravery and boldness in asking for help. So
absolutely.
I went on, so that's my plug for World Suicide Prevention Day.
Awesome.
I actually didn't even realize it until you said, what did you do after Invisible Children? But I went on to go work for them, and I led their fundraising initiatives and strategic partnerships. And then after To Write Love, I just went off on my own.
Yeah.
and tried to figure it out. And I moved to Nashville, which was a lot of fun. Amazing community. That town's incredible.
Yeah.
And it was a mix of, I tried to start a business, failed.
Yep.
I was doing some nonprofit consulting. I was doing some public speaking around the country, which was really fun and rewarding. And then I also got my real estate license. So
yeah. What was the public speaking stuff? That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I have a bit of a qualm with the speaking industry.
Okay.
And, I might get knocked for this, but whatever. Schools and communities and organizations pay an absorbent amount of money to bring in speakers.
Yeah.
And it's not unreasonable for, a speaker with it, even if you're not well known, it's not unreasonable that if you have great content and a great product, you don't have to be a celebrity. It's not out of the realm of possibility to be paid $10,000 to $20,000 for a 40-minute lecture.
Yeah.
And then you get into the Brene Brown category, and that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah.
And I just I think what I loved about Invisible Children, and this is a little bit on my high horse about Invisible Children, we did such an amazing job bringing something for free, giving young people an experience that changed their lives, and we gave them tools to be able to follow their passions and make a difference.
Yeah.
And
it was a quality product.
It was quality, and we came into the room, and we didn't just inspire you and then leave.
Right.
And I think what I felt really torn about doing some public speaking after Invisible Children was I felt like for a while I was going to schools, I was being paid a decent amount to, share an inspirational message, but there wasn't substance beyond the message. And
yeah,
I really struggled with that. And what ended up happening is actually my mentor, this is like a thread in serendipity, my mentor, who was my English teacher, senior year of high school, who is the medium who introduced us to Elie Wiesel and these other Holocaust survivors.
Yeah.
She also, in her classroom, is when I first saw Invisible Children, the Rough Cut.
Ah.
And she went on to go work in education reform. And she works for the University of Connecticut. And
nice.
She works for Joe Renzulli, who has 45 years of research in the field of education reform, and she's implementing in schools around the world this amazing new rich curriculum for school systems, moving away from a standardized model.
Yeah.
And the idea behind their model is that every student is gifted, and every student has talents, and we are pumping our kids through school, through structures in our education system, where if you thrive as a writer and do great in English class, but you are failing in math, we put all your energies into doing better in math. But as soon as you get out into the real world, like no company is going to hire the talented writer to work in Excel.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so their whole model is about prioritizing students' strengths and skills and creating basically like it's an enrichment model where students actually get to follow their talents and their passions within the classroom.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's a really beautiful thing. So what ended up happening was I ran a workshop at their big conference, and it jazzed a lot of educators up, and my my teacher and mentor, we call her Waz. Her name's Nicole Waikunis.
Nice.
She said like your message, and really what I was speaking about was how young people can find their gifts to make a difference in the world. And she said, your message really resonates around the model that we're implementing. Can we send you into schools to like really raise up the energy level before we come in and implement? And I was like, oh my God, yes, this is what I've been looking for.
Yeah.
Right. It's like I can come in and I can provide an inspirational message that has a substantial follow-up and structure on the back end and it paired so nicely. So I did a number of speaking engagements with them well, which is fun. And I haven't done that in a few years now. It's actually been a hot minute since I've done any of that. But my season in Nashville was very entrepreneurial, and it also was a lot of failure. I mean, I got whooped, It was just, it was hard, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but again, like I felt called to go there, and I felt called to experiment, and the compounded failure between a failed startup and real estate, as is not it takes time. And I didn't have the runway. I had a great first year in real estate, but it takes 3 years to really stabilize. I just did not have the runway or the time to make it possible. And I was really depressed and defeated and lost and felt like I was off track. I was off course, and I kept failing. It was crazy. I gave real estate one last final push before I left Nashville. This was the fall of 2016. And it was like moment of desperation. And I was working 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
For 2 months straight. And that 2 months led to, I had 1.2 million in real estate under contract.
Yeah.
And I was poised to have a really nice month. A month that was going to buy me a year and a half of runway and time to figure things out. And one by one, I watched all of those deals die. And they were completely out of my control. And I was left looking at my year, and I was like, wow, I've been working 100 hours a week, and I'm not going to get paid for a single one of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to pay rent next month.
Yeah, isn't that brutal?
And basically I took a moment to slow down. I spent Thanksgiving that year by myself, and over Thanksgiving I just sat with myself and I just said something there. I don't know what it is, but I sort of released the pressure off of myself to say, like, why are you failing? Like, why can't you make this happen? Why is it still hard to pay rent? Like, why haven't you figured this out? And I basically just kind of looked around and I said, I don't know what it is, but there's something out there that's trying to tell me something. Like, it has to. Yeah. Because in the times of my life where I've been in sync with where I'm supposed to be, I've thrived. And it's like, and I had this moment where I was like, I'm not thriving. And
that's a great point. I've not been able to put words to that, but I think that's really it. Like, when you said something about the fact that when you were doing essentially like what you were supposed to be doing, you were thriving. And I really like that, because I feel similarly with that. And I think that's been that period of time that you're talking about, between Invisible Children and it sounds like, now or then or whatever it's had its difficulties, that's for sure. And it's been that search, or that trying to find that place, my place in the world, my place in life, and how I can give back, make a difference, and whatever, be a functional part of society in a way that I find meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And that really hit home for me. So I don't think I had words for that necessarily, but I really like that. I think there's a lot of truth to what you just said.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's not, just to clarify, it's not like financially.
Yeah, no.
I mean, finances are a part of it, but it's spiritually, and it's in your level of happiness. And
yeah.
It's in the relationships you have with other people, and it's very holistic. When I say thriving, think of something much more holistic. And essentially, I looked at my whole time in Nashville, and I just said, something beyond myself is not allowing me to thrive, and so that means I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And I made that decision on Thanksgiving Day 2016, and 9 days later I had all of my prized possessions in my car, and I was driving home to my childhood home.
What do you think those years are? The things you can look at and go, like, these are what I learned from those moments, or from that failure, in a sense of, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is, and this is still a work in progress, but I was so hard on myself. I was so laser focused back at myself, like storming around the house in a ball of anxiety, or every time I looked in the mirror, it was just like, why are you failing? Why don't you have it together? Why, and I, it's like, I just wasn't kind to myself. And
I get it more than you even understand. Yeah. It's like I'm talking to myself right now. So
yeah, I was not kind to myself, and I was not gentle with myself.
Yeah.
I just think I'm in this new season of being a lot more gentle with myself.
Yeah, I like that. Me too. Likewise.
Yeah. And that, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I mean, that's come back in a really real way, in terms of not only being kind to yourself and being gentle with yourself, but like taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I moved home from Nashville, and I knew, I was born and raised in New England. I wanted to be back here. I love it. I love the mountains. I love the ocean. I want to be close to home. And I moved to Portland, Maine. And it was the first time in my life that I moved to a city without a job lined up. Like when I moved to Nashville, I kind of had something teed up that allowed me to take care of myself, which was great.
Yeah.
But I moved to Portland, and, I had nothing lined up. It was like, I made the choice for me to be in a place where I could plant roots, and it was a more holistic step. And I got a wonderful job working for a fundraising consulting firm, and
yeah,
we had a lot of really great clients. And over the course of 2017, I really got to this place of again, much more slowed down, much more present, and I felt like the things that I was desiring in my life were starting to come to fruition, in terms of just quality of life and lifestyle and friends, and all of these things started to come together. And at the end of 2017, and basically at the turn of the new year into 2018, I started to get sick, and I just thought I had a chest cold, right? I was coughing and fever. I thought I had bronchitis or something, but I didn't have health insurance, and so it was another one of those things where you say, "Oh, I'm just going to fight this thing off, and I'll get better in a few weeks," and it did not get better, and I basically lived with what I thought was bronchitis for 5 weeks.
Oof.
And by the last week, I couldn't walk 15 feet without collapsing.
Oh, man.
And what I actually had was, I had a massive blood clot in my right leg.
Oof.
that went from mid calf to mid thigh, and it broke off and went to my lungs. And
Oh,
I had
no.
I had hundreds of blood clots in my lungs, and basically, slowly but surely, one of my lungs was being closed off. And basically, by the time I actually got to a hospital, and this is not an exaggeration, my doctors pretty much told me, another 30 minutes and I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
Yeah, my right lung closed off, was completely clotted, and oxygen was not getting to my organs and the rest of my body, and I was on the verge of a heart attack.
Wow.
And I was in the ICU for a number of days, and I was in the hospital for about a week.
Yeah.
And again, it was just this. It was this massive lesson in you're not in control, and it was another experience that was fairly traumatic. That was basically since then I've been confronting and dealing with the fact of I touched something I haven't touched before.
Yeah.
And it's changed my perspective on a lot of things, and I'm prioritizing my gentleness with myself and the care for myself and my well-being in a whole new way. But what's also really magical and beautiful is I had this rock bottom experience. And I mean, when I got sick, I didn't have health insurance.
Right.
I was up to my eyeballs in medical debt.
Yeah.
And
ICU,
I did a GoFundMe, and our Invisible Children community raised every freaking penny.
Yeah.
And I'm now, medical debt free. And
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was such a gift that I'm still trying to earn. But so many amazing, wonderful things have happened in my life because I hit rock bottom. And before I got sick, I was like, oh, I found the city I want to live in. And, I'm happy in all these ways. And overnight, I lost my home. I lost my job. I lost my health. I lost financial security. I literally, all in one day, in a matter of 24 hours, every major sort of crisis that you could go through, 4 of them happened in one day. It was just, boom. And there I found myself back home recovering with my family, because I had to be looked after for a while. And it felt so defeating, because it was just, and again, it was this moment of oh my gosh, I thought I finally was getting traction. I thought I was finally getting somewhere, and then the rug gets pulled out from underneath your feet. What I didn't see at the time, and what I see now, is that my life got put on another parallel track. And I think this ladders back to purpose and where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because I got sick, and because I ran that GoFundMe, I got a call from Plenty, the company I currently work at. And the founders of Plenty, Jeff Shuck and Jennifer Mulholland, I know them because Jeff Shuck was on the board of directors of Invisible Children.
Yeah.
And Jeff reached out and he said, I think we can help you. Why don't you come to one of our retreats out in Park City, Utah? We have a retreat center called Heart Space. He said, why don't you come out to one of our retreats for a week and come heal your soul.
Yeah.
And I took him up on it. And I went, and I'm not kidding you. I found my true north again at that retreat. I went to Lantern. I went to the Lantern Leadership Retreat.
Yeah.
I found my true north.
That's awesome.
And I found my voice again, and I found my purpose again, and my passion came back. And what led from that was a lot of really serendipitous conversations and doors opening that led to me getting hired by the company.
Yeah.
And you look back and you connect all the dots, and it's just if I had never gotten sick, I wouldn't be here right now. And I'm in a place now where I'm thriving again.
Right.
Absolutely thriving.
That's awesome.
in friendship, in relationship, in work, in play, in every element of my life, I feel so whole. And in whatever I was doing, and again, this kind of goes back to like there's a higher light guiding us, and again, like we don't have to get into the weeds of this, but I mean, I was raised a Catholic, but I haven't been to church in 20 years. So
Sure.
When I say higher light and when I say spiritual, I mean that I live my life in a spiritual way. I think I don't have an adopted kind of institutional.
Yeah.
I don't have an institutional adoption of spirituality.
I really respect that. I appreciate that a lot. I mean,
yeah,
I'm very much in a same place, I think, right now. And, I've touched on that in previous podcasts, so I won't get into it too much. But, I agree with you. I think there is 100%, there's a guiding light, a higher power, something that's more than we understand and know and can comprehend. But,
yeah. And it just, I guess what I wanted to say was it just makes me feel like, and I'm just kind of dumping my heart and soul on the table here, but it just makes it just really makes me feel like someone could look back and I could totally let a near-death experience be something that holds me back, and instead I've allowed it to, and it's been a journey. I mean, I put myself in counseling for the first time in my life after that experience. It has not been easy, and it's taken a lot of self-work to get to where I am. But I look back and I say, wow, there were things out of my control that put me on a new path.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't on the path I was supposed to be on.
Yeah.
And to me, I look at that and I say, there are forces greater than me, and there are factors out of my control that are helping me find my purpose.
Yeah.
That are helping me stay on the path I'm supposed to be on. And if I'm present, and if I'm taking care of myself, and if I'm whole, I can be aware of what the next steps are, and what things are in front of me, and where to go. And for me, that's what we're all trying to figure out.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not saying that I'm some wise old sage or I have the answer. Like, I'll be totally honest, most days I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Likewise.
It's just been this incredibly rich perspective that in my current state of life informs how I'm moving through the world and how I'm showing up. And I'm probably going to have a lot more experiences in the years and decades to come that are going to morph my perspective again.
Yeah. I have a question. I want to dig in just with something you mentioned, and I guess maybe it's a statement, and maybe you think this, maybe you don't, maybe it's subconscious, but you said you've been, you were given this gift by, financially, and you're trying to earn it. And I just want you to know that gifts are given. They're not earned. And that is a gift to you, my friend, and you don't need to repay those debts. They've been paid for you. So that's something you can give up and let go of. You be you and keep living your life to its fullest. I think that's the gift that you get to keep living. So take that to heart. I don't know if it slipped out or if that meant.
Thank you.
But I want you to know that gifts are given, man. It's a gift. It's something you get to have for free. You don't have to pay anything back.
No, that's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe even that was a glimpse into some of the things I'm still working through.
Yeah. So, it stuck out to me, and I want you to know. Yeah, I mean, from somebody that
was totally subconscious.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think the retreats? What about these retreats like rejuvenated you or breathed life into you, or what was it that you learned or took from these retreats that's really altered your life?
It's a few things. One, it is such an intentionally the curriculum is so it's so designed with heart, and it's designed to help you to slow down. It's designed to help you find presence. It's designed to help you look inward. And again, the wisdom comes from within. And oftentimes in our life, we don't take the time and space to sit with ourselves in that way.
Yeah. So there's a curriculum. Is there speakers as well, or?
So it's facilitated by Jeff and Jen.
Okay.
And it mixes yoga and meditation and healthy eating and outdoor experientials and, peer discussion it's walking you through really, like, the framework is helping you hone in on what is your passion, what is your purpose. When you're able to define those two things, what is the highest possibility for your life? Who are the people that you need to surround yourself to make that highest possibility a reality? And it's really tangible in that way, but it's also really enriching, and you will understand this. I'm going to try to explain this for folks, not, to bring this back to Invisible Children in a way. The experience of Lantern, I think, attracts a certain caliber of human. And when I say caliber, I mean it attracts a person that is curious and heart-driven and wants their life to be full of purpose, and they want to live authentically. And it attracts that kind of person. And at Invisible Children, we had a culture and a community of people that embraced their passion, embraced their purpose, and dove in and went 110%.
Yeah, it was an incubator for
it was an incubator for
changing the world.
rich connection and changing the world. And we used to call Invisible Children Narnia.
Yeah.
And if you've ever read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, there was a metaphor where Invisible Children was like stepping into Narnia. Someday you had to step out of the wardrobe again. And in a weird way, my 20s have been spent trying to find another doorway into Narnia.
Likewise.
And I went to Heartspace, and I went to Lantern, and I sat in a room. I sat in an incubator space with people that had values about passion and purpose and living authentically and taking care of ourselves and making the world a better place. Yet these weren't, we were young at Invisible Children. It was grassroots. It was gritty.
Yeah.
And this time around, I was sitting in that kind of environment with seasoned professionals and CEOs and executive directors, and the space that's created at Heartspace it makes it so safe to be vulnerable. It makes it so safe to open yourself up. It makes it safe to cry. I can't tell you how many times I cried during that retreat. And I left the retreat, and I actually called a few of my friends from Invisible Children. And the first thing I said to them was, I found Narnia again.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's what the experience was like for me. It was like, wow, like I found this place where we can be real, and we can ask hard questions, and we can give each other the feedback that we need to hear that's not always easy to hear. And we can be guided in a rich way that helps us find the answers ourselves. Yeah.
Which is so important. It's huge.
Yeah.
And to foster that environment, I think is like special in and of itself. And you just don't find that very often. And, it's special for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something that I want people to experience, and
yeah.
So
now you're at Plenty. You work for Plenty. After leaving that retreat, did you? I mean, it sounds like you kind of talked about it. I forget their names already, but
Jeff and Jen.
Jeff and Jen. They reached out to you. What was that process from that point forward? Like, what did that look like for you? How long between the retreat and like starting?
Y'all, it was the wildest hiring process I've ever been through. It was wild. And this is, to me, it was like the epitome of like following flow and letting go of control. And basically, Jeff and Jen had talked to me at the end of Lantern, and and it was just a nudge, and it just was, hey, we've seen you this week, and we'd love to have a one-on-one follow-up. And I was like, okay. But I left Lantern and was foaming at the mouth, like, how do I work for them? I mean, I was just like, this company is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the work they are doing, and it just was beautiful. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is a space where I want to grow into. And 2 weeks later, I pinged them and I said, hey, I would really love to have that follow-up. And over the course of the fall, we had a series of conversations. And our they were conversations. I wouldn't really say that they were interviews. We were very much aligning on where do we see our personal and professional paths going, and what's our purpose. And we were talking about really high-level things. And it was just really clear that there was an incredible amount of alignment. And,
that's awesome.
And because I'd known Jeff since Invisible Children, he knew my story. They knew my background. They know the work that I've been in, and all. And my toolkit was aligned as well. So we had a series of conversations. I went up to the retreat in October, and we were in conversation through the rest of October and November. And because of the holidays and the holidays being Thanksgiving and things being busy, we fell out of touch for a few weeks. We had to reschedule a few calls. And in the meantime, I was working for another wonderful organization, and at the time called the Nexus Fund. Yeah. And I had to go to DC for Giving Tuesday. And, we did a fundraiser, and I was getting ready to leave DC, and I was on Facebook, and I saw that Plenty was flying to DC to meet with a client. And so I pinged them, and I said, hey, I think our paths are crossing for less than half a day in DC. On the rare chance that you have an open window, let me know. I'll meet you. Yeah. And they were flying in, and I was flying out, and we had a 1 hour overlap for coffee as they were coming into the city and I was leaving. And
that's awesome.
Over that meeting, they made me a verbal offer. And here's where things get eerie and kind of crazy. That was on a Thursday. I went home, in the following week on a Tuesday at 9:00 at night, I got a call from my boss at my current company. And she called me and said, you're my first phone call. And I thought, what is going on right now? Yeah. And she says, there's been something happening behind the scenes. There's a wonderful opportunity for our organization. We're going to be going through a merger, and it's really great for our work and our programs. But I'm not getting everything I wanted, and that includes my job and my staff.
Ouch.
And so I got laid off. And 2 days later, the offer in writing came through from Plenty.
I just got chills. Like, legitimately, like, that's like such a cool like story, like alignment, like just being on purpose and being where you're supposed to be, kind of what you had mentioned before. I think that's really beautiful.
I mean, to be honest, if like you had a title for this episode, I feel like it's on purpose. Like, yeah, the thing in life is finding your authentic blueprint, living in a place of well-being and presence. And when you do that, you can be aware of the steps that you can take to fulfill your purpose. And whatever that purpose is, it could be changing the world. Yeah. Or it could be a lot smaller, but we all have our part to play. And it's and when you're on your path of purpose, you find serendipities, you find alignment, things fall into place more easily, where when you're not on your path and you're trying to make things happen, it feels hard and it doesn't happen the way that you want it to. And I don't know, it's like on one hand it feels really fluffy, but on the other,
I think it's true though.
So, it speaks so true to like what I've witnessed.
Yeah, and my experience, even, I've gone through many different. I don't know. The last few months, 4 months here has been crazy for me, and I really feel that too. And I think it's just not a wake up call in some ways for me, but it's just something I needed to hear again, more of, is just kind of trusting that process again. Moving here was really hard, and I just had to continually tell myself you just got to trust the process. You're out of control. You can only control the things that you can, and trust the process. You're doing everything you possibly can to make this move and to make this the best that you can. Just trust the process. And as I dive into, more and more into CrazyFaceUno, it's the same thing. It's trust the process. I've loosened. I haven't opened my hand, but I've loosened the grip that I had on CrazyFaceUno and the direction I wanted it to go and what I thought needed to be done and the next steps and whatever. And I've just loosened that up a little bit and said, you know what, I've got to just focus on the things that I can focus on and control and take it one day at a time and trust that process again. And I don't know. I think that's important. And I think the more, for me, at least in this endeavor that I'm on, it's remembering that, stay on purpose, control the things you can, stay focused on what you can, but it doesn't mean don't work hard. It doesn't mean like step back and do nothing. It means work hard at what you're working, like what you can, and don't try to force your agenda. Let the agenda kind of come to you and let things kind of develop and unfold as they're supposed to be. And I've already seen that, this whole process and this whole like direction of doing good and making a difference and whatever that means and whatever that looks like it's open for a reason. And that's a real reminder for me, and I think I needed to hear that today, so thank you.
Man, thank you. Thanks for the invitation to have a really juicy, fun conversation.
Absolutely.
On a Tuesday morning.
I know. What a great way to start your day, right? I kept thinking about that this morning before we even talked at all. And I was like, man, we started this at 9:00 on a Tuesday. I'm going to be posting this tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. So if you're listening, it's Wednesday, most likely. But I was just like, man, hour and a half is usually like, I cut it off at an hour and a half. So at 10:30, my day is like already started. I'm like, I got a great start to the day. I've been trying to dive into a couple books that I've been listening to on Audible. And so just being very intentional when I wake up in the morning of, all right, I'm going to listen to 15 minutes of these books, 15 minutes of this one, 15 minutes of this one. I actually finished the other one this morning. I had 30 minutes left. And when I woke up, I was like, I'm just going to dive into it and finish this one out. So I already started before we even got here, kind of getting my brain juices flowing and finish that book up. And, I don't know. It's just been really good. I love getting the mind activated and going in the morning. There's no better way. And I know you're headed to work after this, right? So it's like inspired and ready to get the day going. And that's how I feel right now. I'm like, all right, I've got a lot of like things to think about. This platform, this podcast is as much for me as it is for anybody. And it's been beautiful. It's great to reconnect with people and friends and people I love. The people that I love and are my friends are doing amazing things around the world, around the country. And it's inspiring for me to be able to like listen to their stories and to take these little nuggets and tidbits. And, I've been taking notes as you're going, and I've got different things written down of like, man, I got to remember that. I got to, on purpose and, these different things. And it's as much for me as it is for anybody. And I think that's beautiful. I love stories. I love, one of the things I keep hearing people keep saying is, I'm so honored to be on your podcast, but like, just so you know, like, I'm kind of boring and I don't have a lot to say or whatever. I'm like, I just don't believe that because I know it's not true. It's like everybody has a story and everybody's story is important. And,
Yes.
And that's what this is. And I want to tell people's story. I want people to have a place where they can come in and share their near-death experiences and how it's changed their life. And, not only just express their struggles in life, but also giving people a path and an idea of what it looked like to dig themselves out of that hole in some ways. And I'm there, like I'm right there with you. I'm right there with other people. And, I don't know where this platform, I don't know where Crazy Face is going completely. I have a direction that I'm trying to lead things, but I'm excited. I think that this is a great start and a great foundation to what's to come, I guess. But yeah, thanks so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about Plenty and kind of, what you're doing now. And before we wrap things up, I know I wrote down, on your website, the 3 things that you really Plenty focuses on is helping companies, nonprofits with revenue, impact, and fulfillment. And I think that those 3 things are really cool and really important. Revenue was the first one, and obviously anybody that's out there that's been a part of a nonprofit and a company, you have a job in general, you understand that revenue is, unfortunately, it's a necessary evil. And then the other 2 are just like heart. And I like that you didn't sweep revenue under the rug, but you're focusing on other things as well. And 2/3 of your mission is more than just money. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Jeff says something that's really wise. And honestly, if we had to switch it, it's really, fulfillment's first, impact second,
sure,
revenue follows. And, Jeff says something that's really wise that's and I'm going to misquote him. Thanks, Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. That, he basically says that, people work for organizations. And if we have strategy problems and revenue problems, it actually dials back to our people.
Yeah.
And, we can create strategy. We can look 100 yards out into the darkness all day of the week. But if we're not fulfilled and if we're not authentically making an impact through our business, the money's not going to follow. So, that's really like the model that we approach our work with through our consulting.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't agree more.
And through all of our retreats and workshops and coaching, it's very, very, it's very holistic. It's very heart driven, and everything comes back to people. And honestly, I think it's the beautiful thing that you're doing through CrazyFaceUno is, you're giving people a platform.
Yeah.
To share what it means to be human and to be alive and to find your purpose. And we're all yearning to be seen and heard and valued, and we all have something to share with the world that we can all learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And I think it's beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Really beautiful.
I appreciate that.
So yeah, if anybody would like to learn more, you can just head over to plentyconsulting.com.
Okay.
And give us a follow on social media. And I'd love to throw something out there. If anyone is interested in coming to one of our retreats, I highly, highly recommend creating the space and time for yourself to give to yourself, to find the answers within yourself for the questions that you're asking. We've talked about Lantern, but we also have a retreat called Lumeria, which is a women's well-being weekend.
Nice.
And we have a lot of other really wonderful offerings. But if anyone is interested in attending a retreat, would love to offer $200 off, and you can just use the discount code CrazyFaceUno, all caps, one word, for $200 off a retreat in 2020.
Awesome.
If that is of interest to anyone.
I had planned to talk to you offline with this one as well. So that's something I'm definitely interested in myself. So yeah, if you're listening and you're interested, like Bryan said, CrazyFaceUno all caps. Use that discount code and get $200 off. That's awesome. Thank you, Bryan. Thank you for offering that out to the listeners. So.
Oh yeah, of course. Happy to help.
Awesome.
Happy to help, and happy to connect and carry conversations with you, Shane, and with anybody else that wants to have a conscious conversation about what it means to be alive. But I eat this stuff up, so I really appreciate the opportunity to hop on and
I knew we'd have a good time.
Connect with you again, and all the years and all the time makes no difference. We just pick up right where we left off.
It's so true. Yeah, we're both pretty passionate people, so I knew that we'd be having a pretty heartfelt conversation. I really appreciate your vulnerability and sharing your story with us. So thank you very much. It means a lot, and I really value you as a friend. And I know time goes between us, but hopefully we can stay in touch a little bit more and keep this conversation rolling. And regardless, I know that this won't be the last time we have a conversation, Bryan. So I love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
More to come. Love you too.
All right, guys. Thank you again for listening. Check out Plenty. They're doing some great stuff. And if you want to be a part of their retreat, check that out as well. If you sign up, you can enter the discount code CrazyFaceUno, get $200 off that price. Remember, do good, make a difference. Appreciate you guys. I love you. Thanks again. Peace.